know you're there. And I know you can hear me. You may have no tongue, but there is nothing wrong with your ears.
And there's a lot of stuff in this film especially that I feel like we've never seen before on screen. Some very unique scenes.
Yeah.
Any inspiration that you drew from?
It came partly from I wanted to do a movie that, I acknowledge my cultural inheritance, because I'm Dutch and we come from a Calvinistic background and I'm, brought up religious. So in order to make it personal, sort of, that's where it came from. And the other thing is that if you're going to do a Western, you're slightly intimidated by the fact that there are so many genius Westerns already made. So you better be original and you better do something that you haven't seen before. So sort of a mix of those things.
And the choice on the non-linear storyline to kind of go back and go back and forth, why did that come into play?
Well, originally I was writing it. I think it took me about a year to realize that a linear was not the best way of telling the story. And I just felt at some point that this was the most emotional way of telling the story. So it was not like, oh, I want to do a strange structure or anything. It's just at some point I realized this is the way the story has to be.
What was your first reaction to the role of Liz?
I knew it would be a challenge, but that's what I think actors look for. You look for something different than you've done before or different than you've seen before on screen, and that's how I felt when I read this character. And it can be rare right now to have a very strong female character at the forefront of films, and so I'm always my interest is always immediately piqued when I feel like that's the way a script is going when you're reading it. So I immediately was drawn to it and excited by it.
And it's obviously the challenge is they're playing, like we see, a mute character to then act without speaking. It's got to be tremendously challenging for you.
I was really looking forward to it. It was actually a very freeing experience because a lot of times when you have words in films, you can get very kind of hung up on them. Someone else is writing them and you're trying to make them sound natural in your speaking voice and coming out of your mouth. And it's also a balance of you're trying to give the audience information but in a natural way, so it can be a balance of making the words feel your own and furthering the story but still not feeling forced. And so I was actually looking forward to having that removed from my plate and just being able to kind of be in my own mind, and communication is so much more than words. It's about energy and body language, and that's how we communicate first with each other and in life. And so I think when you have an opportunity to do that in movies, again, that doesn't come along very often, and so that's also exciting.
You talk about bringing the information out there. I feel like that's the challenge with this interview alone, because we want to talk about this film, but then because it happens in this non-linear way, like what can we say about your character without giving so much away? Because we start the movie off and it's almost at the end already, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's very,
Martin doesn't want to.
Yeah, I think one of the enjoyments of the story is that you can constantly, there's a sort of a mystery thing to it. What is this? And then and you find out, and it has so many twists and turns. And I think the best way to get into this, to step into this movie is knowing nothing. Of course, I understand that people need to know something to go and buy a ticket, but it's part of the fun. It's really a how do you say it? It's a character study, and I know that's something directors say a lot, but this is really like you peel off everything. How first of all the story which is happening in the now, but then you also slowly find out what has happened before, and now I'm already giving things away.
Losing a child is the worst thing a body can go through. I was just talking to your wife about that same thing.